In 2012, a game with one staircase got 10 million views. Then everyone forgot it. SCP-087-B was one of the earliest SCP games ever made, long before SCP Secret Laboratory, SCP-5K and SCP Blackout. If you were to look at the gameplay, it would look pale. Just a simple staircase and some cheap jump scares.
Oh shit. Oh, I died.
How could that have ever scared someone? It did so by first becoming massive.
Right. Here we go. It's the one you've all been asking for, the one you've all been waiting for. SCP-087-B.
Back in 2012, YouTubers like Markiplier and PewDiePie were playing horror games. And one of those horror games were SCP-087-B. They would not just make one video and move on. No. They made multiple videos on SCP-087-B, gaining millions of views. And actually, I calculated an estimate, about 10 million views across all the big channels playing this one single game. 10 million people have heard of one game, and these YouTubers were not faking anything. They were genuinely excited and scared to play it.
Hey, whoa, get the fuck away from me! What the hell is that? Oh my god, it's chasing me! Why am I
play it. But what actually made them so scared? Well, the game gives you nothing at all. At the start, you hear a radio message.
SCP-087-B.
And on floor 5, you hear it again. One last message saying they can't contact you anymore. At this point, you are completely alone, with no one to hear you and no one to help you. Combine that with the occasional weird noises you would hear, breathing, the atmosphere, and the sounds you can't explain. But what is even the goal of the game? You just walk down a bunch of stairs? Well, yes and no. Walking down a bunch of stairs would be pointless. There had to be something down there with you. That thing is SCP-087-1. But what exactly is SCP-087-1? To answer that, we have to go to the official wiki. Based on the wiki, we get some important details. Those are the experiments. 4 D-classes were sent down SCP-087 for research purposes. Well, the first and second one survived. The third D-class status is unknown, but presumed dead. And the fourth one is Document 087-1. D8432 is an average 43-year-old Caucasian male. He was the first one to be sent down 087. D8432 was equipped with a 75-watt flood lamp and a few other communication-related tools. Now, here's the thing. A 75-watt flood lamp should light up at least 20 meters ahead. Yet it only lights up the first 9 steps. Officially, the law never explains why, but assuming the anomalous nature of SCP-087, this must be another side effect of the environment itself. D8432 descends to the first flight. Here he reports hearing a child sobbing. He estimates the depth to be about 200 meters. D8432 continues to descend until he reaches the 51st flight. Here he sees a white glowing face with no arms, no legs and no body. Only a face staring at him. This face is referred to as SCP-087-1. Before D8432 has time to react, 0871 jerks toward him. D8432 gets scared and runs up the 50 flights until he exits SCP-087. Now, I want you to keep this in mind also. D8432 reports seeing no body, only a face. So, the first experiment was basically a complete disaster. The Foundation realized a standard 75-watt flood lamp was completely useless against the abyss, which raises a massive question. How much power does it actually take to pierce a darkness that actively refuses to be seen? To find out, they upgraded the gear and launched Experiment 087-2. D9035 is a 20-year-old African-American male with a strong build. He is equipped with a 100-watt floodlight and more importantly 100 LEDs. As D9035 reaches the first platform, he again reports seeing the same child sobbing around 200 meters below. This must mean there's a person down there or something much more dangerous. D9035 was equipped with a 100-watt floodlight, which should easily light up 30 meters. Yet it still only lights up the first 9 steps, meaning no light source can exceed that. D9035 was instructed to take one LED light and stick it onto the wall. He does as told and turns off his floodlight. He then reports only being able to see the platform and not the stairs, meaning the lights are dynamic. So now we know the lights can have a maximum distance of about 5 meters. Everything under that is fair play. He keeps descending until flight 89, where he sees something that has no body, just a white glowing face staring back at him. For 13 seconds they look. It blinks once, and then it jerks towards him. D9035 runs up the stairs from obvious fear until he reaches the 17th landing, where he passes out for a few minutes from exhaustion. Once he wakes up, he continues his ascent and manages to escape it, leaving 087. But did you hear what I said? SCP-087-1 has no body, just a face. That's the second time we hear that. But a floating face wasn't the only terrifying thing left behind. The second subject barely escaped after passing out on the 17th landing. If this anomalous staircase is actively reacting to these visits, what actually happened to the physical environment after a human collapses inside it? The answer is hidden in document 087-3. D9884 is a 23-year-old female of an average build and appearance. D9884 was equipped with the same equipment as the first experiment, except for some food, water and a blanket. D9884 descends down 13 steps and hears the sobbing child, like the other 2 experiments heard. She also reports not seeing any LED lights except for some sticky substance on the wall, meaning the LED lights were removed since the last experiment for some reason. D9884 keeps descending until she reaches the 17th landing, where she reports seeing a sticky substance that smells like old rusty metal and pee. Note, that's the smell of what blood should smell like. Remember in the previous experiment, this is where the D-class fell into a coma-like state from exhaustion. This must mean SCP-087 or even SCP-087-1 doesn't kill the people, but for some reason marks where they are unconscious. She keeps going down until she reaches flight 89, where she reports seeing a large hole where a light source appears for a split second. She estimates the hole depth to be about 1 kilometer. She then keeps descending again until she reaches the 469th landing. She believes she has traveled far enough down and decides to turn around to head back up until she sees 087-1 right behind her. She then runs down the stairs in a panic, managing to run down 150 flights before falling and becoming unconscious. The camera and audio is then disconnected, and no contact has been made since. Assuming what happened from the last experiment, there is a slight chance she is alive, but sadly we will never know that. But wait, I mentioned 2 times that 087-1 doesn't have a body or any physical appearance except a face. And I also mentioned that kid sobbing. If we take a look at SCP-087-B, we will notice some contradictions from the lore and the game. In the game, SCP-087-1 does have a body and the sobbing from the child never happens. And take a look at the game again. The lore says SCP-087 is just a simple staircase, but in the game there are rooms, hallways and other things that are not in the lore. So why does the first SCP game ever contradict the SCP lore so much? Well, that's because it doesn't. Well, it does, but for a good reason. Because I have been lying to you. SCP-087-B is not the first SCP game. That title goes to SCP-087. SCP-087 the game is lore accurate. It follows the lore to a T, yet why is it not talked about as much as SCP-087-B? Well, that's because players find it boring, and from personal experience, I can also say that walking down the same staircase for 15 minutes is not fun.
Yeah, I ain't got the patience for that. I'm just gonna,
Which is why SCP-087-B looks so different from the lore. It wasn't trying to be accurate, it was trying to be fun, and it worked. Well, what if I told you the scariest part in the game was never coded? It's not even on your screen. It's all in your head. And to explain that, we have to go back to one of the most notorious creepypastas out there. Ted the Caver is a creepypasta from 2001 about 2 buddies going caving and finding a passage. They decide to attempt to carve out the rock near the passage so they can crawl inside it and explore. Now, over some few months, as they carved out the passage, they heard weird sounds, mainly sounds like air blowing, but eventually while digging, they would hear it, a loud screech and scraping. Now, during all of this, Ted and his buddy, B, would take pictures of their progress and document everything in a diary. And eventually, they would take this picture. Do you see anything weird? Maybe if I show you where to look. Do you see it? A face staring back at you. Or is it? Because that's no face. That's just noise. Our brains are filling in the noise as a face. That effect is called pareidolia. Pareidolia is an effect that we humans evolved into. Imagine this scenario. You are a caveman in a dense jungle. You're lost from your tribe and you don't know where you are. And then all of a sudden, you think you see a tiger's face. You think, meaning you're not sure. Now in this scenario, it's better to run away and die not being a tiger than staying and die being a tiger. Our brains evolved to keep that survival instinct in our minds. Now, what does this have to do with SCP-087-B? SCP-087-1 is just a white face in the darkness. No body, no detail, just enough for your brain to fill in the rest. And that's exactly what makes it work. It's not what the game shows you, it's what your brain adds. Take a look at the gameplay. Let me cut the background music and all other effects. Now it's just us and the game. Hear the sounds. Look at the thick fog right in front of you. How are you not certain a hand could just come out any second, or a creature could launch at you? Playing this game always leaves you on the edge, and eventually you would get jump scared. That's the whole trick. A dark staircase, some fog, and a face your brain refuses to let go of. So, if a teenager could make this in his bedroom, what could top that? What came after was somehow even a bigger story. If you want to see that breakdown, then the video is on screen.